news, we're launching a new fantasy football news series. This series will launch periodically throughout the offseason and might get into more of a type of a schedule. We'll see. But basically, in this show, in this series on the Fantasy Football Show, I'm going to start covering a lot of the news and notes and topics going on around newswires and around the league, and address the fantasy implications of all of these things that are floating around out there. So it's going to be hot topics, things that are in the news, things you need to know about now, things you need to adapt and maneuver around. You know, guys like Kareem Hunt, guys like Zeke Elliott, they're in the news right now. And that's going to be our first topic. What's up, Christopher? So, jumping right into topic number one, the most talked about thing in fantasy football right now, Zeke Elliott, and the fact that there is no ban, no suspension coming down on Zeke for his involvement in pushing over or crowding that security guard into falling into a metal gate. Kind of surprising that he didn't face at least a 1 or 2 game given his past, but the NFL surprises gives us a surprise every time. They're always kind of, I think, what's up, Tony? Kind of surprising us with the direction they take with some of these cases, and then the direction they take with others, like the fact that Adrian Peterson, got a ban. Will Tyreek Hill get a ban similar to that with a similar kind of issue? Zeke Elliott, with his past, you would have thought he would have got a game or two. This is great news for those of you that have already drafted and were expecting to get top 1 to 2 numbers out of Zeke, because if you missed a game or two, that would have bumped him probably a little bit on your rankings and a little bit on your expectation level stat-wise. So great news that Zeke is playing 16 games as of now, assuming he keeps his head on straight, assuming he stays healthy. He still is at my 1.02. He hasn't really moved much for me because he's been at my 1.02. I know a lot of people like Barkley at least 1 or 2, but for me it's Kamara, then it's Zeke, then it's Barkley, then it's Christian McCaffrey. But I think this really solidifies his spot in the top 2 for me. I think ever since the team acquired Amari Cooper last year, Zeke was the number 1 or number 2, depending on the stats you look at or how that's evaluated. The number 1 or the number 2 overall running back from the point that the Cowboys acquired Amari Cooper. So Zeke is going to eat 16 meals in 2019, and it's time to get ready for him to return to the top 2 in any draft you're probably in. And whenever something like this happens, a lot of times everybody gets overexcited because there's news, there's a reason to talk about a certain player. So expect people to kind of, I think, use this as a reason to get behind one of these guys more than the others, because McCaffrey's got, he's gaining weight. Is that going to be an issue for him? Overusage in Carolina last year, basically the most used player in the NFL, or most used running back for his team. People worried about that offensive attack for the Giants, as am I. What's up, man? So I'm worried about that attack. Will Barkley get enough room to run? Is he going to have to force every TD he's going to have to work for? Whereas in an offense that had an Odell Beckham Jr., I think he would have been able to see less 8-man fronts and not had to work as hard for every single TD he gets. He's going to have to make the most of everything he does, and he's going to see a lot of 8-man fronts. So just Kamara, people are, for whatever reason, gun shy to make him their number 1. So this really does just give people that reason to separate one of these players from the group of 4, because people have been having a tough time deciding, who do I take at 1.01? It's a question I get asked all the time. This really helps shove people in a direction. So don't be surprised if you see the buzz kick into gear that this is everybody's 1.01 heading into 2019 early drafts. But yeah, finally made a live stream. Glad you're here, Anthony. And I'm announcing a new series I'm doing within the Fantasy Football Show. It's not on another channel. It's right here. I'm going to start doing a news and notes segment. And I don't know how I'm going to roll it out, the frequency, if it's going to be a set day, kind of just going to feel it out, but basically talk about just the players in the news so that you guys can get a handle on what's going on right now in the fantasy football news space. So that is topic number one. I would like to know in the chat here who didn't have him at number one that's saying that he's their number one. So did this news do it for you? Where was he before this news broke that he was going to get 0 games? Did you have him 2? Did you have him 3? Where was he before this news broke? He was number 2 for me, and it just solidifies him at number 2. I admit I had some questions, when I was faced with having to draft him. In one league, I took him at 1.02. In another league, I did go Zeke. I mixed it up just in case there was a ban. But my heart told me that he was going to, or even if he missed a game, still be worth the 1.02. So I made sure I took him in one league, and if I had to do that other league over again, I probably would take Zeke in both. So the ban did influence me in one. The threat of a ban did influence me to draft Barkley in one league. But that's the way it goes. You have to kind of assume some things. You have to kind of predict what the NFL is going to do. It's a very tough thing to do. The NFL is very... Everybody's saying, oh, he won't get this ban. He won't get this ban. No one knew that. No one knew what Roger Goodell and the NFL was going to do. You could make assumptions, but it's like Game of Thrones, man. You can't predict anything when it comes to the NFL. It's like the Red Wedding when Roger Goodell and a player go into a meeting room and start talking about a player's future. So I don't buy that anybody had a really good indication as to where this was headed. No one did. And no one really knows where Tyreek Hill in his situation could go. It could go 0 to 4 games. It could go 4 to 6. An anonymous source talking about him getting 0 to 4. We'll see. But I think Tyreek Hill is a safe bet at 4 to 6. And I think that makes him a good 4th to 5th rounder. I think if you're drafting Tyreek Hill in the 3rd round, you're reaching a little bit. But great news for Zeke. Anybody that was worried can now rest easy that Zeke Elliott will not be getting a ban in 2019. Next topic would be Patrick Mahomes and his conditioning. Kind of in the news today and yesterday that Pat Mahomes has been working pretty hard on his conditioning. I think Pat Mahomes is a fantastic late 3rd round pick in 2019. Not a pick I would do in every draft. I know a lot of people get really upset when you take Pat Mahomes in the 3rd round. But the funny thing is his average draft position is in the 3rd round for a reason. That means that the average person is taking him in the 3rd round. So it is kind of head scratching and weird. And it just doesn't make sense when people in massive amounts and waves come at you when you draft Pat Mahomes in the 3rd round, calling it crazy. It's not something you do. Yet, why is his ADP there? Because the average draft position data proves that the average person would take him there. Now, I think it's more of a case of if you are taking Mahomes early, you oftentimes are taking a lot of heat, right? I'm doing it out in the public. When I take Mahomes early, I get a lot of pushback and heat right up front, right in front of everybody, and you get raked over the coals by a lot of these, you got to wait on a QB drafters out there. Not a bad approach. Waiting is fine. So I think that scares off a lot of people from making their opinions public about that approach because people don't want to get raked over the coals. They see how much heat people take by taking a QB early, so they're quiet about it. You don't hear a lot of people talking about it. You don't see a lot of people really wanting to do it in a live public mock draft. I will. I'll also wait, though, because I think that Baker Mayfield, I'm seeing him fall in the 6th and 7th round. And in the next draft or two that I do, we'll do a mock draft together. I'm going to try getting A-Rod or Baker Mayfield in the next draft and completely avoiding Mahomes on purpose. Because with the mock drafts that I do with you guys here on YouTube, I jump in an ESPN draft, first come, first serve. We get 11 other people, including myself, 12. We do a mock draft live here on YouTube. And when I do that, I try and pick an approach where I can make a lesson out of it for the good or bad of myself and my drafting of that team. Last night, I did a 0 running back approach. And I got beat up pretty bad in terms of my running backs. Savvy, you were there. Tony was there. A lot of you were there. And it was a good lesson that, hey, if you go zero running back in an auction, this is what happens. Now, I think my team still would compete, but I'm a little crazy when it comes to my sleeper running backs. I had Damian Harris, Jalen Samuels with Benny Snell, Darwin Thompson. I said Damian Harris already. Tevin Coleman. Remind me who another running back that I had stashed on the bench in that sleeper group of running backs. And I had Kittle, Mike Evans, Mike Thomas, Pat Mahomes. And yeah, it would have been the change in direction in that team is if I would have not bought Pat Mahomes, because there is a time and place to take Pat Mahomes early or bid on him in an auction. Just because I love him doesn't mean you take him every time. And the point in last night's mock was I didn't want to take a running back with my first 4 picks, no matter what. And the one guy that almost pulled me out of that plan of attack was David Montgomery, because he went for like 25, 26 bucks, I think, Savvy. And God, that was a steal. I wanted him so bad. I did bid one time and then I didn't jump back in, but I wanted to grab him so bad. And if I would have changed directions in that draft and took Aaron Rodgers, who went for 10, I assume if I was going after him, I would have got him bid up a little bit on me. But even if I got him for 12 or 13, then got David Montgomery, the dynamic of that team changes so drastically. So listen to this roster. This is what I would have had. And these lessons are good. I take a plan of attack that's even painted on my chest. I'm going to go zero running back. Everyone knows I'm doing it. And, of course, drive the bid on me up. But I don't care. That's fine. It's a lesson. It's a good learning experience. But looking back at last night's draft, one change in direction, I would have had an unbeatable team in that entire group of 12. And if you were in that draft, tell me if you think differently. If I would have had Aaron Rodgers and David Montgomery and then Tevin Coleman, and then I had Mike Williams, Mike Thomas, and George Kittle with, the Jalen Samuels and the Damian Harris, that team would be pretty hard to beat. And I think it's a great topic. So on the topic of Patrick Mahomes, because we're talking about Patrick Mahomes and his conditioning, there's a time and a place to take him. And you don't always want to grab him just because, like me, if you're like me, you believe that taking Pat Mahomes early isn't always a mistake at all. I wouldn't even categorize it as a sometimes mistake. There's a time and place to take every player. And actually, he was a good value at $24, I think is what I paid for Mahomes, or 25, something around that range, 23 to 25. And that's not bad at all. But when you were in a position like I was, where you're literally spent a lot of your money already, then, you look at players like Aaron Rodgers, who shouldn't have fallen for 10, because Mayfield went for 17. And so you're looking at, very inconsistent QB values there. But Pat Mahomes at 24 is so worth it. If you are in a draft where you've done really well with your money and you've landed players you shouldn't have landed, Pat Mahomes is a fine choice. And his conditioning, back on topic of the news, makes him even more attractive in 2019 because I think it helps keep him healthy. He's also a running quarterback that didn't need to do a lot of running last year. So if Tyreek Hill is out, let's say 4 games, any loss of fantasy points that Pat Mahomes loses by Tyreek Hill being out could be offset a lot by, maybe not all of it, but offset in a major way by more running by Pat Mahomes. It would shock you if you didn't know this stat, and it shocked me when I looked it up. Pat Mahomes, who doesn't think Pat Mahomes is a good runner? He's a really good running QB. He's so athletic. And that offense makes it so he's set up to have big open, rushing lanes at times because people are so worried about that pass attack and the running game. And Kelsey, it makes it really hard to focus and hone in on stopping Pat Mahomes running if Pat Mahomes wants to run. So would it be shocking to you if I told you that he had 2 rushing TDs last year? That's crazy for a guy that is as skilled as he is at running. 2 TDs. That means that he didn't need to run. They were just scoring at will. So Pat Mahomes, I think, the weight gain will help, or the conditioning will help. Score, I think, between 4 and 5 TDs, I think, at a minimum in 2019. 19, especially if they're without Tyreek Hill in the beginning. So this I love. I love that Mahomes is getting stronger. He says he's shedding some of his baby weight. And boy, when you see the guy, you wouldn't think he was the number one fantasy football player in he could be one of the best fantasy football players ever. And he's definitely capable of leading all fantasy scores year in and year out. So when you look at the kid, you're like, God, can that kid even drink? He's like a baby. He's only going to get better. He's only going to get more accurate because QBs in their first and second season, they have to work a lot on their accuracy. For people to think that he can't improve significantly from what we saw last year, I'm not saying he's going to always throw for the amount of yards and TDs that he threw for, but again, offsetting some of that with some rushing, less yardage, more TDs one year, more TDs, less yardage another year. In the end, I think Pat Mahomes crushes third round ADP every single time he's healthy for a whole season. I think he crushes it. He is a phenomenal player, a once in a lifetime type of QB. We won't see somebody emerge to his skill level. I think we may have in Baker, at least situationally. Baker with the situation is really going to be good. He's not as good skill set wise as Mahomes, not even close, but Baker Mayfield's in a great situation. But we won't see a player come out of college, I think, for a long time that has the skills that Pat Mahomes has. And so I guess I'll leave you with this, that he's worth a third rounder without question. He's worth $24, $30 in an auction without question. Just make sure you're following a plan of attack that allows you to spend that money wisely. And last night was a great example and lesson of how you can either just slightly go in one direction and change the dynamic of a team. And it was a time to wait on a QB. So that was fun last night. It was a great, I think if you haven't seen the video, watch it. Again, I went in wanting to go zero running back, at least through my first 4 picks. And it definitely ended, I think, better than we thought. But it definitely could have taken a turn for a better end result had I gone just with Montgomery and an Aaron Rodgers. So very interesting and fun. I think Mahomes could easily run for 200-300 more yards, 150, 200 more yards with ease, and score 3-4 more TDs for sure. Funny part is I remember Mahomes' dad pitching for the Cubs. Is Zeke now the number one pick or over Barkley? Steven, my number one pick's McCaffrey. My number 2 is Zeke Elliott. And I'm sorry, McCaffrey. My number 1 player is Kamara. Zeke Elliott is my number 2, and it's been that way, and it doesn't change for me. It's kind of been like I've been waiting for no ban or one game to keep Zeke at 2, but I've kept him there, and this solidifies him at my number 2. But you aren't crazy to like any one of the big 4. You're not crazy to like McCaffrey number 1. Barkley number 1 because he's so good and talented. But McCaffrey and Barkley have a touch more risk to me. McCaffrey because of the weight gain, and Barkley because he has, I think, a bad offense. So for me, Kamara and Zeke are the number 1 and number 2. And in auctions, what I want to try the next time we do an auction is owning like Zeke and Kamara and seeing what that looks like, building like literally a zero wide receiver approach around those 2 big studs. So we'll see what that looks like in an auction. And I'm going to do that on purpose so my team may not look to the standards of what some of you guys like in terms of well-rounded. So know that I do these things oftentimes to see what the approach can do for you if you were to take it. So I hope you guys enjoy the way I do those. And then some drafts I'll try and draft like best player available in my opinion to win. Next topic up, David Montgomery and his ADP rise, and the fact that everybody's now talking about this guy. And is it warranted? Is his ADP climb warranted? Do you think that David Montgomery should be a top 25 overall player, breaching the top 18 in some early mock drafts that I've seen in the past few weeks? I think the guy is capable of being, I think you want to get him as your third drafted player, even if it's at 3.01, but don't be shy about making him a late second round pick. I released a video a couple days ago, my top 10 running backs or my top 12 running backs, and he was on that list at, I think, 10 or 11. What's up, Gabe? And when I released that, people didn't seem to really like that too much. Some of you guys did. Some of you guys that are familiar with the fantasy football show and sleeperu.com content loved it. But outside of our circle and our world, it wasn't an extremely popular pick. And people didn't like Montgomery sitting there at number, I think it was 11, I think I had him at 11 in that ranking. You got Montgomery at 5.06 tonight in a draft. Fantastic move, Henry. He's gold. And that's after you went wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver. So 4 wide receivers straight. You still got Montgomery. That's how you do it. That's how you clean up. That's how you win. I think you said you got Thielen. I don't like Thielen. I wish you would have got a different wide receiver. But I like that you got Hill, I think was your 4th, if I remember correctly. But Thielen, if you would have gotten somebody else that I liked a lot, that would have been an amazing draft to my standards, but it's still fantastic, and I think you could easily win that league. So great job. 5th round would be amazing. So let's see where Montgomery's ADP climbs. Riley, Henry, you guys got him in the 5th. I think you're drafting with some guys that haven't quite caught up with the news, because anybody drafting in a very savvy league, no offense to the players in your league, they're just maybe catching. It takes a while for things like that, an ADP rise of that degree, or like Juju Smith-Schuster. Let me ask you a question, and I don't even know your league, Henry and Riley, but answer this question for me. Did Juju go in the 2nd round in that league? My guess is he did. And you will find Juju going at the tail end of the 1st round in a league full of people that are really immersed in the most up-to-date fantasy football news. So when you get into a league where people aren't caught up yet, or they're getting their magazines, or they're just cramming and they haven't been paying attention all offseason, like a frog in boiling water, you throw him in boiling water, he jumps right out. That boiling water being Juju Smith-Schuster's rise. That boiling water being the decline of Todd Gurley. That boiling water being the rise of David Montgomery. So in those leagues, Riley and Henry, people aren't going to just accept those things that fast. They're going to want to let it simmer a bit. So my guess is Juju was a 2nd rounder. My guess is Todd Gurley went really high in both your leagues, Henry and Riley. And I bet you Connor went really high. Those leagues probably haven't caught up. And that's great if you draft in a league early. Juju went 1.12. Juju's barely climbing into that 1st round, but you will find, I believe, in those leagues, you'll be able to take advantage of people that aren't accepting this stuff right away. David Montgomery, back on topic here. David Montgomery could have 1,200 yards rushing and anywhere between 7 and 10. Even 11 TDs wouldn't shock me. He's got such quick feet. There's video footage of him out there doing some drills. I've been beating this drum for a while now. And David Montgomery, to me, was the number 1 or number 2 rookie running back, dating all the way back to January. He wasn't in everybody's top 1 to 2 or even 3 running backs in January. So he's a running back I've been high on for a long, long time. And he's a tackle breaking machine. Before the NFL draft, I actually did a YouTube video, and I told everybody that it was right after Jordan Howard left, and it was just Cohen on the roster, and people started talking about how Cohen was going to be the new, 2nd rounder, an awesome running back, high running back too. And I did a video saying that as we walk into the 2019 NFL draft, that the Bears were the number 1 landing spot for the 1.01, or if you go N'Keal Harry at 1.01, the top rookie running back taken would come from the Chicago Bears roster after the draft had taken place. And that was met with a lot of pushback, people saying, why would they do that? They have Cohen. It was a great situation to me, and it is probably one of the best landing spots. I think Darrell Henderson will ultimately be in the best spot for a rookie running back once he gets a hold of the starting lineup, the keys to that starting lineup with the Rams. But I think that Montgomery is going to be a top 5 to 10 running back for many years, with the potential of being in the top 5 running backs for a long, long time. If you have Henry I'm sorry, if you have Henderson and David Montgomery on the same dynasty roster, not overspending, but smartly acquire both of those guys, you're sitting pretty in dynasty because you could be looking at two absolute monsters. When would I draft Jacobs in a yearly league draft? Fourth or fifth round. I'm not super high on him. I'm not also calling him a bust. I'm just kind of waiting to. I'm pumping the brakes on making him anywhere close to a David Montgomery value-wise because he's only run for 650 yards in a college season. His resume is very tiny. He played with Damian Harris at Alabama, and Damian Harris was arguably, in terms of yardage, more productive. And he was ranked higher than Jacobs early on in the offseason, talking January, February. To me, the better value, I'm not saying I'd take Damian Harris over Jacobs. Don't twist that up. But I'd rather wait, not take Jacobs, take somebody else like a Kittle in the third round, Damian Williams or Aaron Jones in the late third round, than gamble on a Jacobs when I can take Damian Harris and Aaron Jones with, Damian Harris later and Aaron Jones in the third and have what I think could end up being the better rookie, at least at times. Now, everyone's going to think that's crazy now because Jacobs is the starter. Jacobs is everybody's favorite, rookie running back, or was, until now Montgomery's climbing into that spot, and people are jumping on the bandwagon. But rightly so. He deserves to be the number one rookie running back, David Montgomery. Don't be shocked, too, if in 1 to 2 years he grabs a hold of the majority of the PPR production. I think that Tariq Cohen has a role this year. I think he'll still be very, very good and very used. They're going to use both of them on the field at the same time. Cohen will get his. I don't know that he'll have the same kind of season that people had hoped for earlier on in the offseason, even when Howard was there or in the plans. And then they got rid of Howard. People's expectations went through the roof for Cohen, and a guy that I've liked for many years, Cohen. He was on the bold predictions list, but no one really even knew who he was the year prior to last year. And he was on it last year, too, as a repeat person on the bold predictions list, and he had a great year. A guy that likes Cohen, I was telling everybody that it's going to be the number one running back's going to land in Chicago, and David Montgomery is certainly in the mix for that. Like, I would take Montgomery ahead of Henderson in a rookie draft because you can, but I'm reaching for Hendy at least 1.03 at this point, which is really high to some, and we'll see how high that is to people once more news unfolds about Todd Gurley, which people still get. I can't tell you how many emails and comments and Facebook comments and Instagram comments and YouTube comments and emails and that I get on people still unable to accept that the Todd Gurley that we once watched dominate, is gone. People can't. There's some people that, and these are the people that feel like they're not in the news, they're not on top of things. They literally speak to me about it as if I'm some novice, and they're like, who the hell is this guy? This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Gurley's going to be the number one or number two running. Like, they have no clue what's really going on with Gurley's knee. They're blindly following Gurley into the fire and not even seeing the flames. It's crazy. Trying to catch up on a couple questions here. I just think Gruden will go out of his way to make Jacobs the worst. Yeah, I mean, Jacobs could do well, but Riley, my point isn't that Jacobs won't get the carries. It's that we've only seen him on 650-yard usage. So will he hit a rookie wall immediately? Tough to say. He hasn't even hit a college wall ever, so we just don't know. Jacobs could be good. And I'm not calling him a bust. I'm just saying be careful drafting him too high. Who has more fantasy points, Montgomery, Sanders, or Jacobs? I think I answered that pretty well, Johnson, by telling you that Montgomery is a top potential 20 overall player. Steven, I'm not doing a mock draft tonight. This is a news and notes edition, addressing all the hot topics in the news. Next topic, James Conner. James Conner has said that he expects his role to be similar. We will find out what is going on. And actually, let me pull up James Conner's last comments, and I'll actually read them to you. But James Conner, to me, I've been beating this drum all offseason too. That James Conner, to me, is just one of the flat-out biggest risks of 2019. because there are so many red flags. There are as many red flags with his ADP being in the 7 to 12 range, where it's been the majority of the early part of the offseason. He's since fallen into the mid-second round where he belongs, and he starts to become a little bit more attractive, but I still avoid him because I want Mike Evans more than him. I want Dalvin Cook. And when I said I wanted Dalvin Cook over Connor months ago, that was asinine to many. Now, that's common. But Connor said that he expects his 2019 role to be similar to last season. There was talk about there being a running back by committee. Everybody's saying different things. But we know that Samuels is going to push him for work. We know that the running backs coach, Eddie Faulkner, coached Jalen Samuels in college and will want to use the guy that was tight end eligible because he's such a damn good wide receiver. Samuels will be used a lot on the field, even at the same time. And there's so many red flags. Connor didn't stay healthy. Draft Samuels and Snell together if you're in one of those deep-ass leagues with big rosters. If you're in a very shallow league roster-wise and you can only hold 4 or 5 running backs, you can't do that. But you also shouldn't be owning James Conner in that league. That's a league where you for sure need to stay away from him because you can't even back him up properly. But I expect Conner to see less work even out of the gate. My earlier predictions were he won't hold up, or there might be some bigger controversy or some kind of competition or something happens that could make his value plummet, or if he does enter early on, he breaks down right away. But now we're looking at the fact that they're going to maybe split work from the beginning. But once Samuels either gets in there through an injury to Connor or he just gets an opportunity, I think he shines and they use him more and more. I could be wrong, but guess what? If I'm wrong, it's not costing anybody a season because you're passing on Connor at very acceptable alternative ranges. Like you're looking at Mike Evans. How could you argue against Mike Evans over Connor if you like Connor more? I get that. But if you make a mistake and pass on Connor and he ends up being amazing, Mike Evans is still going to drop some serious points for you. Same with Dalvin Cook. Same with a lot of players that are in that range there. Nick Chubb, get him handcuffed to Kareem Hunt. Whatever the case may be, you're not losing a league because you missed on Connor and you went with one of the other awesome alternatives. You're avoiding risk by avoiding Connor. So we'll see more news that comes up on this one. Who's a better wide receiver, Brandon Cooks or Robert Woods? They're pretty close, man. I think I'd take Woods, but it's darn close. It could change, any moment during the year. They could rotate. Are you gonna do one of those Instagram chats again? Yes, I will. Tell us, Tony, is it likely bone on bone? Who are you talking to? Smitty, I do med mal for plaintiffs, and trust me, arthritis does not get better. Yep, that's what I've been saying for quite some time, Tony, that this is how the knee is, man. So Tony knows this, but there is meniscus in between your two joints. Arthritis essentially is how they determine it, and I've torn my ACL, my MCL, my LCL, my meniscus all in one knee. I tore my patellar tendon off my kneecap. My kneecap is literally like in the lower part of my thigh, like I was trying to push it down back into place, like 10-second rule, Can I get it back in time? I've torn my knees up big time. And I have arthritis in my left knee. Usually when you have a major knee injury, you are very susceptible to arthritis, and you get it fairly quickly, especially if you're active. And I've been active since I tore it. I tore it 10 years ago, and I'm starting to feel the arthritis in the knee. And essentially what happens when you're Todd Gurley and you are taking abuse on that knee, your meniscus and all that's getting closer and closer. Your spacing in between the two joints is closing in. So when you do the x-ray, instead of seeing this, so if you do an x-ray on a knee, even without an MRI, you can see the spacing. And a lot of times a doctor will take an x-ray of your knee before taking an MRI, even though you can't see the meniscus or see some of the things you would look at in an MRI. By taking the x-ray by itself, which is much cheaper if you want to know if you're close to bone on bone, I might add, the x-ray itself will show the spacing because it'll show your bones. So if your bones are that far away or whatever, then you have padding. Well, arthritis is somewhere in that knee. It could be in the corner. It could be the entire knee. Todd Gurley's knees are close to bone on bone, or one of his knees could be in one place at least. How close is that? How much swelling will he have? That's the thing. The inflammation that occurs from that is unpredictable. It happens when you least expect it. It doesn't have to be that he gets hit there, but if he does get hit there, he could get that inflammation. The inflammation, see you later, Henry. The inflammation itself is going to put him in a place where he might miss a week or two until that goes down. You won't be able to predict it. People are going to be gunning. This is the NFL. People will be gunning for his knees, and he won't last dragging players down the field. So, on the money, Tony, I agree with you. And let's get on to the next topic. Geronimo Allison, will he be the number 2 in Green Bay? Will it be MVS? Will it be, Allison is a guy that I think that probably deserves a shot, but it sounds like Valdez-Scantling is currently, I would say, in the lead according to the news, but the news could be wrong on this. A lot of people are speculating. A lot of these writers want one or the other to do well. I kind of think Allison is underrated. It might be one of those situations where, thanks, Gabe, I appreciate it. Gabe, if you have a question, you jump straight to the front of the list. Tony does too, based on what he's done in the past. He's guaranteed to get attention. But thank you, Gabe. I appreciate it. That's awesome. Geronimo Allison, I think, deserves a shot. And this might be one of those situations where I don't recommend handcuffing wide receivers. I really have never recommended that. But this year has 2 strangely weird, kind of makes sense type of handcuffs. And that would be MVS and Allison. But only if you're like really hurting at your wide receiver 3 and you went really, let's say, heavy on running backs and you're dying at wide receiver 3. If you take MVS, Valdez-Scantling, if you don't know, and Geronimo Allison together, you're pretty much locked into an excellent wide receiver 3. So don't think that because you're handcuffing wide receivers, you're going to be hurting. That's not a bad. Thank you, Gabe. That's not a bad idea. And even if you didn't go cheap at wide receiver, that's not a bad idea. I mean, one of these guys, Allison or MVS, is going to eat big time. You're going to have potentially 1,000 yards and 5-6 touchdowns. That's a pretty damn good wide receiver. Still don't like the Packers, says Savvy. I love the Packers. I think the Packers are going to get back to what they do best, which is throw freaking touchdowns and get Aaron Rodgers to air it out. I think Aaron Jones is going to have a fantastic year. He's bulking up. He's another guy probably worth talking about in this news series, and we can talk about it right now. The guy's bulking up. He looks massive. Not always a recipe for success, in my opinion, to gain weight, but that's more so when you've had success at a certain weight and you do what Christian McCaffrey's doing, which is trying to fix what isn't broken. I don't like McCaffrey adding the weight. I'm not calling him a bust. I'm just saying it prevents me from wanting to rank him 2 or 3 or whatever. It makes me say, okay, he's the bottom of the 4, but he's still in that big 4. I'm not dropping him. He's a monster, and he'll be elite. But it just worries me that he's gaining that weight. With Aaron Jones, I'm not worried because he's never thrived at the weight he was at, and he kept getting hurt. So, I'm not, and Tony, since you seem to know a lot about injuries and knees, I'm not sure if you know more than just the legal side of it, but the stronger your knee is, the surrounding muscles, the harder it is to tear stuff too. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar. Some of you are not. I'm a kind of a dinosaur, and I'm dating myself here, but Garrison Hurst, I'm not sure how many of you remember Garrison Hurst or were around when Garrison Hurst was a running back in the NFL. But Garrison Hurst was one of the most hyped up college running backs. Huge prospect coming out of college. He tore his ACL, and they didn't even know it. And when I tore my ACL in 2002, I went to have surgery. The same doctor that I believe sat in on that surgery, and he told me about it. But he did all the Phoenix Suns surgeries, and he told me a cool story. He told me about Elway not having ACLs, which is freaking crazy when you think about it. John Elway didn't have, I don't think he had an ACL on either knee. Tore him really early on, and he didn't have surgery. He kept going, kept trucking. That's why you see him walk and waddle the way that he does now. But Tony, then you'll love this story. But Garrison Hurst, one of the biggest college prospects, I forget the year. Tony, maybe you have that on you off the top of your head. They did a random NFL draft physical on the guy, and guess what? They found that he tore his ACL some years back. They had no clue. Garrison Hurst didn't know that he had a torn ACL unless he knew and he suppressed the information or whatever. But Garrison Hurst had a no ACL in one of his knees. I forget which knee it was. And the doctor, my doctor at the time that did my ACL, he said the reason they didn't know, and this was back before running backs were ever thought to be able to recover from an ACL tear. Teams would run for the hills when they found out you had a knee injury like that. No one thought that a running back was going to ever be the same after an ACL surgery. Now you can come back 100%. So 87, that's a long time ago. A lot of people probably, I think it's like Tony, me, and one other person in this chat probably remember him. But anyways, he told me that Garrison Hurst's thigh muscles, and especially around the knee, were so strong that an ACL was absolutely useless to him. It didn't even do anything, because what an ACL does is, Gabe, if you have a question, again, I'm going to take that super chat thing down, but you're going to go first. If you ever have one, just tell me, and if I miss something, post it again. Your ACL is in the middle of your two knee joints. It keeps it extremely tight, like that, so that nothing moves. When you bend over, you grab the newspaper. Not that you have a newspaper anymore. Look, I'm dating myself again. No one has a newspaper anymore. You bend over and grab a pen that falls on the ground. And you have no micro movements because your ACL is really tight. Whereas if you don't have an ACL, let's say the ACL is out, and you bend down to get something, you have these little micro movements like that. And it tears and mashes up the meniscus and tears it down and breaks it down. So without an ACL, you're just basically doing that, even on a micro scale, to your meniscus until you get bone on bone, which Todd Gurley is approaching. And when you have bone on bone, there's one option for you as of today. There's stem cell things that take a long time to get better. Todd Gurley doesn't have that kind of time, mind you. There's stem cells, some things that they're going to do. They'll probably develop a way to inject, and they have some of those, but successfully for an NFL athlete, meniscus back in there. But the only solution for a regular Joe like you or me or Tony is to get a total knee replacement, which, you're done playing football at that point. You're lucky to waddle around. So Garrison Hurst, and I'll wrap this up. I know the story's getting long, but Garrison Hurst didn't have the ACL, broke it. I believe it was in high school, and they talked about what game it was or something. He figured it out because he had some knee swelling. But his muscles are so tight around that knee that it's like there's no movements at all. And so my point, going back to Aaron Jones, because I get so sidetracked, is that Aaron Jones strengthening his thighs, the muscles around his knee, bulking up to absorb more hits, he has a better chance of staying healthy, I think, than most players gaining weight, because he struggled with injury. So I really like Aaron Jones. I think Aaron Jones could thrive in 2019. I think Aaron Jones could be a top 5 to 10 running back if he stays healthy. And at late third, if you're in a league full of novice and people that aren't in the know, then Aaron Jones could fall to the top of the fourth or the late fourth, and you have yourself a steal. So if you want to win your league in 2019, consider drafting Aaron Jones should he fall to a very amazing and low-risk value. Geronimo Allison, to wrap up the news here, I think keep an eye on him. Keep an eye on that situation. Definitely consider maybe a wide receiver handcuff between MVS and I don't know if that's another super chat there, Gabe, but I appreciate it if it is. don't be afraid to handcuff these two because one of them is going to eat. And the final player to talk about on this new fantasy football news segment series that I plan to release. Gabe has the chat. Did Gabe say anything? Let me scroll through. Gabe, if I miss anything you said, please let me know. What was I saying? Oh, this new show, fantasy football news show. I don't know how I'm going to roll it out, what frequency. I'm definitely going to do some news and notes and last minute things on Sundays before game time. I have more news on that. That might even be a different series, so stay tuned for that. But I'm going to try and do a news YouTube show. Do you guys enjoy going over the hot topics in this format? Structured, the most impacting news to fantasy football. Is this something you guys would enjoy to see on a regular basis? Have me have a topic to talk about, some 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces of news that are really important to fantasy football now, today, tomorrow. Do you guys like this format? If so, I think I'll do this often, at least hopefully once a week, but we'll see how the response is to it. Last topic, Kareem Hunt. In the news, bar fight, making horrible decisions. It looks like he will also avoid any kind of ban. We'll see if that ends up being the case or if something else emerges, but it looks to me like Kareem Hunt is in the clear for now. Now, the funny thing is, everybody has been talking about lately that if Hunt does get suspended or cut or whatever, that would make Nick Chubb's value go through the roof. I disagree. I think it would do the opposite. I think Nick Chubb would thrive like he was going to thrive because Kareem Hunt's out for half a season. But there would be no protection for you if you were a Chubb owner without Kareem Hunt, because Chubb is a very aggressive, abusive runner. He's abusive to his body. He's an abusive, angry runner with an injury history. And the likelihood of him getting hurt is higher, I think, than most running backs. To me, no Kareem Hunt is bad news for Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb owned by himself. And now you could cuff him to Duke Johnson, but I think Kareem Hunt is such a valuable backup. Aside from Darrell Henderson, you could argue Jalen Samuels, but I think I'd even say Kareem Hunt is the second most talented backup running back in the entire NFL. He is a standalone. If he was starting for a team like the Browns, he would be a top 5 running back. You can't say that about everybody. You can't say that about Duke. There are just certain players like Kareem Hunt that have proven it, and he would be a top 5 running back. Why would you not want? I know you wouldn't want the risk of him sharing carries with Chubb down the road, but I think there's enough to go around there in Cleveland that even if they're using Hunt on a regular basis after his suspension is over, Chubb's still going to get his. The point is, without the two together, it's not a top 15 overall pick for me anymore, whereas I would take Chubb right now in the top 15 and then make sure I cuff him to Hunt, and I love it. It's a top 5 to 10 running back. Without Kareem Hunt, and it sounds like he will be in play, so don't worry, as of right now, as of today, as of July 4th, happy 4th of July, by the way, Kareem Hunt is in play to cuff to your Nick Chubb, and I think you have a top 5 to 10 running back. But know that if he does something else again, or this news isn't accurate, that he is going to be cut, or even if he's not suspended, the team cuts him anyways, because maybe they had some agreement behind closed doors that if you do anything, we're cutting you. If that's the case, then I don't like Nick Chubb in the top 15 anymore. I'd take him in the 3rd round. Jay Ajayi isn't signed to a team right now. Yeah, well, that makes sense to me. I've heard that Dez might be a target for the Giants. We'll see. Dez staying healthy is going to be a challenge all by itself. Getting thrown the football by that passing, I don't think he'd do well there. That's not a great place for him. Jay Ajayi, you want to hear more about him? I believe that he is in the same situation as Gurley, Sony Michel. So Sony Michel has that bone-on-bone already, at least in one of his knees, so I hear. We don't have like the evidence in front of us on that, only hearsay from people at the NFL draft talking about it, why so many teams passed on Sony Michel. So to me, Michel is a complete avoid in 2019 because his ADP is like, what, fourth round? I'm avoiding Michel like the plague, and I'm taking Damian Harris time and time again because Damian Harris, I believe, call me insane, call me what you want, I believe is just as talented, if not better, than Jacobs, his counterpart at Alabama. And I'm not the only one that thought that or thinks that, because in January and February, he was, by a lot of scouts, a lot of highly respected scouts, Damian Harris was the number one prospect at the running back position heading into the 2019 NFL draft. We're talking January, we're talking December, we're talking a little bit in February. Then people started talking about Jacobs. They love the size, the build. But Harris is the forgotten man. Harris is in a situation where Sony Michel had a knee procedure in the offseason. He may not be as healthy as people think. And then you have White, who is a PPR guy, but who's going to run up the middle? I think it's going to be Damian Harris. I think the hoodie will turn to his rookie, because he always does, and he always rotates. And he hasn't had a between the tackles beast like Damian Harris in a while. So I think he's going to love the new toy and use him by midseason, and he's going to walk people into the playoffs. Mark it down. Damian Harris will be more valuable than Miles Sanders, and he will shock the world in terms of his ADP. That's my feeling on that guy. To close out the news on Hunt, standalone value, I don't know. I don't know where I'd take him. In a deep league, I would. If I'm in a small rosters, of course, I'm not going to take a guy out half a season. If I'm in a big league and I play mostly in those leagues, then Hunt is on my radar as a stash running back that could help me win a league if he gets in there. But he is a must-own for all Nick Chubb owners, and I would reach as high as the late 7th round without hesitation if I'm a Nick Chubb owner. I'm not positive on Jay Ajayi. I believe he did, but Jay Ajayi, I think, will never, ever be relevant, at least for a long period of time. Like we're talking, if he got in there into a lineup somewhere, could he thrive for a game or two, come in midseason and be a plug-and-play guy? I mean, maybe. But Ajayi has some of the worst knee concerns, I think. Him and Sony Michel and Gurley are probably the top 3 players that are, if they played, they're going to get hurt. The only other person I think that you could guarantee is going to get hurt, I think, like, you would have no problems going and placing everything you own on the line. Don't do that. This is a joke. That Jordan Reed and Delaney Walker would get banged up. I think those are probably the 2 most predictable injuries heading into any fantasy football season. And past that, it would be Jay Ajayi, Dez Bryant, and Sony Michel. If I had to rank them, and Vegas said, hey, give us your top picks for getting hurt in 2019, those would be it. And savvy, a lot of people would take Sanders. And I'm not saying that Sanders shouldn't be drafted higher than Harris, but I will take Harris given the ADP. Or if you just said, hey, don't worry about ADP, predict who will score more in 2019, and just give me the right answer, I would tell you Damian Harris. I think Sanders is in an offense where they just don't use, that staff does not use a running back the way that anybody else would use him. They don't focus and use one player. That is not their history, and you won't see that Eagles offense focus on one running back. They just don't do it. That coaching staff does not do it. Plain and simple, history will tell you that Sanders won't be featured. They may feature him here or there, but they will rotate. Tyler Eifert, is he even back? But that's a great one, Tony. If he was even healthy, I'd say you could throw him in there. When do you take N'Keal Harry in a redraft? I take him as my wide receiver 3, and I'm pretty happy about it. Whether that's around, I don't know, 8, 9, something like that, 9. Hopefully double-digit rounds, but you might not get him that high, or that late. Gabe, in a redraft league, when would you take... Oh, sorry, I already saw that one. Smitty, what's your number one bold prediction this year? Roger, you got to get the sleeperu.com content for that, my friend. But let me tell you, if anybody here hasn't gotten that, Tony has. There's a few in here that have. Poke, I believe, has. It has some awesome bold predictions, and I landed some big things last year. You can look at those and review them. But the bold predictions by themselves, I think, are worth the price of admission. And then you get the email advice. You can email me anytime. What's the deal with Perrine? 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 His name is the weirdest name. Samaji Perrine, I believe is how you actually say it. Some people say Perrine, but Perrine. And Rob Kelly. I don't know, Poke. Those guys are never getting drafted by me. Even in the deepest dynasty leagues, I don't think I would pick either one of them up. Jason Witten be relevant. I don't know about relevant. I mean, if you're in a league where like you literally passed on a tight end and nobody's left, yeah, Outsiders is a big sleeperu.com user. Absolutely. The bold predictions feel pretty solid this year. Last year felt amazing. Like I entered the season going, man, I really feel like these are well crafted. I selected the best top 12 bold predictions I could make. Not just like, Zeke Elliott will be the number one running back, or Zeke Elliott will score 15 TDs. Like, they're not like that. They're huge. They're like Darrell Henderson. They're bold. They're really bold. But last year I was like, these are awesome. I felt so good about them, and it's been something I've been honing my skills, crafting how to not only use the gut instincts that we all could be right about, but still be wrong about. And what I mean by that is you might have a gut instinct on a player. Please hit the thumbs up, guys. If you can, it really helps the channel. We got like 30 to 50 people in here, and I'd love to see that thumbs up number match it. It'd be awesome. It helps people know that we're live too, because YouTube will serve the content out to more people looking for live videos when they see those thumbs up hitting. So please, that helps me out. But anyways, the bold predictions are awesome. And last year, Pat Mahomes was number one, written before he's even the starter. Thank you, Tony. Tony's always supporting the channel. And Gabe, I can't thank you guys enough. You guys make my day. I'm out of here, Smitty. Almost 3 a.m. here. Have a 10 a.m. tea time. Okay. Happy 4th, Tony. Be safe. Let me know if you have any more drafts, and we'll get together. Email me. We'll talk about your next upcoming draft, Tony. Make sure you utilize that. Utilize me. I'm there to talk with you. You have it all pretty much under control, though. You've been drafting great. Keep it up. Have a fun golf game. At the turn of the 0.5 PPR Superflex 1.12 and 2.1, discuss strategies. Running back, best player available, QB plus wide receiver stack. Good question, Poke. We have the best community, honestly. I love our community. Our community rocks. And we're going to do a league together. Can't fit everybody in it, unfortunately. I may try and do some kind of big league, too, where we could all draft, the same players if we wanted, so that we could all get in on a league. So I'm going to look into that for you guys, so that the people that miss out on the one league, but I'm going to do a YouTube. I'm only going to do one because I have like 15 leagues that I do. But one YouTube subscriber league where 11 of you will face off against me. Not to... Tony's probably a lock to be in it because he has been an awesome supporter in all these super chats. That's what gets you an advantage. So thank you. And Gabe's working on that too. Gabe's working on getting a spot. But I appreciate all the support you guys give me. This channel is growing so fast. I really, truly, truly, truly believe, and Gabe and Tony are just, small but amazingly helpful parts of this process of getting to my goal, which is to give you guys a daily, I do daily videos now, but give you guys a daily fantasy football show from like 10 a.m. to 2 every single day. Or maybe it's a night show. I don't know. I'll kind of poll people, see what they want. See you, Jake. Happy 4th. But my goal is to give you that. I want you guys to know that you could come. You could replay it too, but you could come on from 10 to 2 or on your lunch break, whenever, and know that I'm on every single day. And I just can't wait to give that to you guys. And we're getting close to getting there every day. So help me get to 10,000 subscribers in 1 year. We're at 1,500 now in like 5 months. Really climbed that whole amount in less than like 2-3 months, really. And for those of you that don't know, I'm probably looking at I'm going to whisper this because I think Miss Smitty's right outside the studio here. And I don't want her freaking out yet, but I might do another live 24-hour stream, which will put me in what's called the Smitty Doghouse, where I stream live for 24 straight hours. I go to the bathroom a couple times, 1 or 2 minute bathroom breaks, nothing big. I don't take you with me in there, but I think I'm going to do that again, a 24-hour live stream. Now, I have so many more followers now than I did in February when I tried this, when I just launched the show, and I didn't have a big following yet. So before, I literally was afraid to leave the camera shot for even a second, because if I had 5 or 6 people in the room, 6 people, 7 people, sleeper you, Gabe says, attaboy. I was afraid to lose those people. So I would go real quick to the bathroom. I wouldn't be sending the link out on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and I wasn't marketing in the way I should have been because I was so worried about those 7 people leaving. Now, I mean, we could do mock draft after mock draft. You guys want to do mock drafts? Imagine what I'm going to be able to do in a 24-hour live stream. We're going to do several mock drafts. We're going to be doing all kinds of crap. You're going to be going shopping with me. I'm going to do it right this time. Last time, I was just worried about getting, some viewers because it was brand new. My goal was to get to 1,000 subscribers, and that one day we didn't reach it. It was kind of disappointing, but I didn't have the following that I have now. It's going to be awesome and amazing this time around because you guys are so active. We have one of the most engaging communities. Look, it's freaking 3 a.m. Eastern, and we have 33 people in the room right now. Imagine what we're going to do on a 24-hour live stream. We're going to tear that shit up. I'm going to go get wings at like midnight till like 2 or 3 in the morning at a local wing place that's open. You guys are going to go shopping with me. I'm going to do this right. I'm not going to just sit here in the studio the whole time. I will be in the studio probably a majority of the time. But when it gets nighttime, I'm heading out. You guys are going with me. It's going to be one fun evening. It's going to probably be in August. I'm 98% sure. Don't tell Miss Smitty that I'm going to be doing it. I have to figure out how to break it to her. I don't know if you guys knew last time I had some videos of her when I got the bell that I have up here. I'm gonna install the bell lower. The bell needs to be low. Probably put the bell. Maybe we'll put the bell like right here. But the bell is what I ring. Wow, Eminem does fantasy football. Hello from England. I've gotten that before, Eminem. I used to get that when I was a lot younger. That's funny. Eminem. I got some wrestler the other day. Somebody said I look like the wrestler. What's his name? I don't know what his name is. He's apparently got my eyes. Big bug eyes. I forget what his name is. But somebody said you look exactly like the wrestler. I looked it up and he looked like he could be a cousin. But Eminem I used to get a lot when I was younger. He's getting old. We're both getting old, Eminem and I. How about one? Oh, I'm sorry, Poke. Superflex League, man, that's even more complicated to try and give someone a strategy because it has to go by flow. So it's so funny. People go, "What are you doing rounds 3, 4, and 5 in my draft, Smitty?" I'm like, I don't, know. And Poke, I'm not making fun of your situation because yours is a lot clearer in the top 13 overall picks. But it's funny because I tell people like I go with best player available and I go with the flow. I can't give you guys to pick. I can only tell you that Kittle's amazing in the third. Williams is amazing in the third. Damian Williams. Mahomes is still great if all those guys are gone. Aaron Jones. But for you, I mean, Mahomes, a Baker later would be fantastic. Mahomes and a Rothy or Brady later. Mahomes and a Kyler Murray later. I don't know if Mahomes probably wouldn't fall to you at 1.12. You don't know every super flex is different. Some people still go running back. Some people don't go running. Some people go like 9 straight QB. So, Pope, first tell me what usually happens. What QBs do you think will be available? And then I'll tell you whether you should go running back, because that's really what determines what I do in your situation. I don't just say go QB. I got to know if Rodgers, Mahomes, Luck, Watson, if all those guys are gone at 1.12, then my advice to you is to go running back, and leave those guys with nobody. Like, dominate the running backs, come back around, get yourself a Kyler Murray, maybe a Baker falls to you. I doubt it in that format, but if you had Baker and somehow got yourself a Kamara and a Mike Williams, you're looking at such an amazing start. But it all depends on who's going to be there. I think Patty will be gone. Is that the only QB that will be gone? And I assume it's a redraft, Poke. If it's a redraft, going A-Rod and Luck wouldn't be a bad move. I mean, you would dominate. I would lead running back if they go QB heavy. I really would. Because if they go QB heavy, you're getting running backs that shouldn't be there in a normal draft, or that wouldn't be there in a normal draft. And it just, if you do remotely well with your QBs and you get those running backs that usually wouldn't be there, you're just going to be flat out dominating. But you have to land those QBs. I wouldn't take Mixon or Dalvin. I would be okay with, but Mixon, and I wouldn't take Mixon in a non-super flex. And if you're talking, if QBs are going high and Mixon's still the guy, you think you're reaching way too high. I don't like Mixon at all. Totally forgot because of too much football. But thanks. What are you saying, Savvy? I missed something. Oh yeah, Stranger Things. Hell yeah. Oh yeah, I haven't finished season 1. Is Stranger Things that good? Do I need to get into this, Savvy? Do I need to catch up? Because I can't seem to get past like episode 3 or 4. And it's not that it's not good, I just can't get into it. Has anybody seen the show Banshee? I'm going to put this up. If you take anything away from this show, whoops. That's right, I'll do a different angle there. If you take anything away from this show, this is my recommendation. Banshee. If you haven't seen Banshee, it's a Cinemax show. You need to stop watching my show right now. Leave and go download this. No, don't leave my show. When we're done, and we're almost done here, I'm going to get off. It's getting late. I think it's like 3 o'clock your time, Eastern. It's midnight my time. Watch Banshee. It's on Amazon Prime, season 1 and maybe season 2. So if you don't have Cinemax, don't worry. Get on Amazon Prime. Watch Banshee. Banshee is the most underrated, undiscovered show I've ever seen in my life. It's in my top 5 all time. And Banshee is about a con man, a thief, a heist man that takes over being it sounds like a comedy, but it's not. Takes over being a sheriff for a town because no one knew what the sheriff looked like. I'm not giving anything away because that's like the beginning part of it. But man, talk about one of the best shows I never saw coming, and when it ended, I was absolutely devastated. That's one of the best shows I've ever seen. Banshee. I want you guys to watch that. If you haven't, come back and tell me that freaking made your year, because it's such a badass show. It is as good a writing as Breaking Bad. I know that's a bold statement. It's as good a writing as Breaking Bad, and it has the flow of a... Well, how could I describe this if anybody's seen Banshee? It has the feel of a Breaking Bad meets... I don't know, like Sons of Anarchy. kind of. But the writing is freaking phenomenal. It's such a good show. Another show, if you want my two most recommended, and if you think I'm good at fantasy football, I'm good at advising on TV shows. So mark my words on this one. You'll love this one too. But Ray Donovan, probably more popular, so you may have seen that. But Ray Donovan and Banshee, don't even wait. Make sure you watch those. You will thank me. You will come back in alive and tell me these are the best two shows you've seen. What is the earliest you would take Damian Williams? I like David Njoku at tight end, so if you're going to fade tight ends early, David Njoku is definitely the guy you want to target, in my opinion. Hunter Henry's fallen, but David Njoku could get 910 TDs in 2019. Like Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad was amazing, but that's like number one probably to me. Game of Thrones probably number two. Sopranos probably tied for 1, 2, or 3. It's right up there. So Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, and Sopranos are like all like 1A, 1B, 1C, or 1A, 1A, 1A. Those are like the top 4 running backs in fantasy. But Ray Donovan, Riley knows, and Banshee, and Borgia. If you've ever seen Borgia's freaking phenomenal. Not Borgia's. That's good too, but they're the same kind of show. They're the same story, but told one's by Showtime. The plural version is Showtime, called Borgia's. The singular version is a network overseas, I believe. But it was on Netflix. I think it still is on Netflix, called Borgia. It's not plural, it's singular. And it's one of the most unbelievable stories about the Pope, the corrupt Pope, that like literally his family were like murderers. They killed people left and right. It's like so amazing. But Borgia, Banshee, and Ray Donovan are my 4, 5, and 6 favorite shows of all time. Sons of Anarchy's kind of in there. Dexter, actually, Gabe, it's funny you mentioned that. I had never seen Dexter, and Miss Smitty was asleep. Got me into that, and we're in season. I think we're in the last season. We're in like season 7, I think, or maybe there's 8. So I really like Dexter. We're getting into that. I'm very, very surprised I never saw it. The Simpsons are not in my top 10, but probably unappreciated. How do you feel about the 6th pick in PPR? I think in that 6th pick, you're either going to go like DJ or Bell and then get Mike Evans, or I think you might want to go Hopkins and then take Cook. And then you could even go Hopkins and Mike Evans and then take like an Aaron Jones in the 3rd. It could be the one where you go 0 running back. You could go Hopkins, Evans, Kittle, or whatever, Mahomes even, but Kittle, and then go, Devonta Freeman, get a bunch of running backs. You could do well with that, but I think I feel better with a David Johnson or a Bell and then a Mike Evans. I think that just feels like an awesome start. The Shield was good. Riley, you're definitely an older person like myself, because The Shield was the first, I think, show ever outside of network TV that made non-network TV popular. It kind of kickstarted like FX and all of these like, oh, you know what? We don't need CBS, NBC, Fox, to find a top show. If you weren't on those, people just didn't buy into it. They're like, I'm not going to watch one of these smaller channels. The Shield on FX turned FX into that show or that channel that could do that, and everybody else kind of followed suit. So it's funny you mentioned that. I like The Shield. The Shield was damn good. One of the number one shows of all time, The Osbournes. Savvy, we might have, I'm not saying you're wrong, but we might have a slightly different taste in some of these picks, because The Simpsons and The Osbournes, you're a comedy guy, but that's cool. I'm more of a like Sopranos and Ray Donovan. Ray Donovan's amazing. Yeah, Riley, it did make it blow up. It was freaking one of the most fantastic shows for its time, for sure. But Banshee, let me put this on screen here. Banshee Cinemax. Borgia singular, not the plural version. The plural version is Showtime. If you're watching Showtime, the Borgias, you're watching the wrong one. I think it was Canal Network, I think. It's on, it should be on Netflix. And then, let's see, Prime, Banshee. And then what did I say? My third one was Ray Donovan. And that's Showtime. These guys, go race out and watch these 3 TV shows. They will not let you down. If you haven't begun watching one of these, you have so much great TV waiting for you. I'm jealous. I'm genuinely jealous of anybody that hasn't seen one of these, because you have such an amazing TV experience ahead. Just flat out jealous. Completely. Finally, I caught you in Canada. Welcome to the North, Smitty. Says Alex. Savvy. Sharon, did you hear about the Osbournes, that they have a death pact? So if one of them dies, Ozzy or Sharon, I think Sharon's his wife, right? If one of them die, the other one wants to go. I'm in a 4-keeper league. My 4 keepers are Zeke, Bell, Cook, Kelsey, Tyler. Another guy in my league has Barkley, Kamara, Gordon, Hopkins. Man, should I feel good of where I'm at? So you have Zeke, Bell, Cook, and yeah, you guys are both tearing it up. You're in a three-team league or something with your grandma. Nice work. Way to take advantage of your grandma, Tyler. Didn't leave her any players. All right, I think I'm done. If you guys want any kind of series, so this was a fantasy football news show. I think I'm going to release some news often. If you guys are interested in a different kind of format, a different series, toss it out. I'm definitely game for creating different types of shows. Let me also give you guys a link so that we can hook up on YouTube Messenger, which is brand new. I doubt you even know it's there, but let me give you a link. Click this link here, guys. I just posted it in the chat. If you click that and add me to your YouTube friends list, it'll allow me to contact you directly to give you take it easy, Gabe. Click that link if you haven't, real quick. Add me to your YouTube chat. This will allow me to send you, like, if I'm going to go live and do a draft, I might choose a winner of a contest, or say, hey, you guys are going to, the people that I message and pick at random directly will get an invite to a league I might do a free giveaway and give one 2019-2020 subscription away at random to people on my messenger. So make sure you click that and join and friend up on YouTube. Oh, I'm sorry, Cruz. Question: the 6th pick, get a running back or top wide receiver? I answered your question, Cruz. I talked about that I'd probably go Hopkins. I think Hopkins or Cook, or if you go Bell and Evans, if that works. Bell and Evans would probably be, they both would be amazing starts. Thanks, Savvy. So, who gave me the thumbs? Was that you, Cruz? I answered your question. Just kidding. Hit the thumbs up on the way out. Mixon at 2.11. He's more worth the risk there, I guess, but I'm still avoiding Mixon at all costs. The injury to that line now, they're going to shift things all around. They got 2 inexperienced coaches at OC and head coach Andy Dalton. No way. Mixon's got the plague to me. I'm staying clear. Click this link, guys. I'm out of here. Click that link. Add me to your messenger, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hopefully we'll do like a mock draft next, maybe. We'll see. Hit the thumbs up on your way out when this video processes and is on my channel. all the thumbs up that you gave are great. They helped. But leave a comment. Let's talk fantasy football in the comments of this video once this posts. All right, guys? No love for Freeman. No love for Freeman. I like Devonta Freeman in the 4th. If you're talking Royce Freeman, I don't know. Keeper, Mixon, because then you can trade him. I'd trade him, though. 2.11. Try and trade him before you actually lock him in. But Ebron at 4. You could draft Ebron back, but take Mixon. Even though I don't like him all that much, he's definitely the keep. All right, guys. Happy 4th. I appreciate you. Thanks for helping the channel grow. Talk soon.